There's a lot we can learn from the first Bitcoin felon. Charlie Shrem, the founder of one of the earliest Bitcoin exchanges called BitInstant, is the first Bitcoiner to go to prison on a felony charge. But who is he? What did he do? And why is this story so important? Let's mine deep.
The CEO of one of the world's leading Bitcoin exchanges, BitInstant, has been arrested in New York.
He's been arrested, was arrested at the airport. Charlie Shrem, 24 years old, arrested today and charged with engaging in money laundering.
Charlie Shrem was a bright kid from New York with an eye for freedom. So when he discovered Bitcoin in his senior year of college, it's safe to say he got a little distracted from his schoolwork. Charlie saw Bitcoin as the next logical progression of monetary technology, one that moves us closer to a world of personal freedom, autonomy, and privacy. But he wasn't just a thinker, he was a doer. So what did he do? He founded BitInstant, a small website where people could go to buy and sell Bitcoin.
BitInstant was the site that allowed people to buy Bitcoin in the days where it was almost impossible to buy Bitcoin.
I say small because in 2011, the entire industry was tiny. Hardly anyone knew Bitcoin existed. But it only took Charlie and his co-founder, Gareth Nelson, about 1 year before their little Bitcoin website was accounting for nearly a third of all Bitcoin transactions. Not just a third of new purchases or a third of exchange order book volume, but a third of all transactions, period. This was Charlie's point of no return. The guy was barely 23, but his product allowed users to deposit cash into their accounts at over 700,000 locations worldwide, partnering with brands like Walmart, 7-Eleven to make it possible. He was on top of the world, but his Icarus moment was just around the corner. They say Icarus flew too close to the sun. And in Shrem's case, the son was a man by the name of Robert Faiya. After using BitInstant to purchase $1 million worth of Bitcoin with cash, Robert sent that Bitcoin straight to the users of Silk Road, the online black market famous for its drug trade. Neither men were actually buying or selling drugs, by the way, not professionally at least. Robert was simply using BitInstant to acquire lots of Bitcoin and then selling that Bitcoin on the black market to Silk Road users. So naturally, in January of 2014, Robert was arrested, but so was Charlie Shrem. Robert was technically operating an unregistered money transmitting business, and it didn't help that his customers were drug dealers. But since Charlie was the founder of the website from which Robert acquired Bitcoin and failed to report Robert's shady dealings, Charlie was arrested at JFK Airport and charged with aiding and abetting the operations of an unlicensed money transmitting business and sentenced to a year in prison. So why should you care? Bitcoin can feel like the Wild West at times, but the industry is hardly as fresh as it was back in 2011. While Bitcoin itself allows you to save and transact privately, many Bitcoin companies are still financial institutions. And since the government would be screwed without taxes, financial institutions are some of the most heavily regulated companies on the planet. Just because the asset is fair and equitable does not mean that the world is. And while Shrem's sentencing is at least understandable, regulations can change at the flick of a button with the full force of the justice system to back it. So if we've learned anything from Charlie's story, it's that we need to protect Bitcoin from policymakers who want to put the industry in a chokehold. Because when it comes to government, it can always get worse. Don't miss Obi Nwosu Backstage. How did Bitcoin, or when did Bitcoin click for you?
It was 2011. I was running a previous company, but my background is technology and programming and AI, all this sort of stuff. And also people knew from my upbringing, etc., I was very interested in seeing for the world being more meritocratic, finding ways to surface the best people wherever they are. And so when Bitcoin came out, 2 or 3 friends within a very short period of time messaged me about this thing, saying, oh, this combines sort of this meritocratic money plus technology and brings it all together. You'll definitely be interested in this stuff. And I read the white paper, I found it really interesting, and my journey began there.
So it was like a match made in heaven, you know, both of your 2 passions into one.
Yeah, recently I was at an event talking in front of a number of builders building in the Bitcoin space to explain to them about building more applications on Lightning and WebLN and also on Fedimint. And after it, they gave me this mug that said anti-fragile, because I did this talk about my upbringing, and my life is basically a story of being anti-fragile, being knocked down many times, but learning the art of being very good at getting back up after being knocked down. And each time getting back up, learning, dusting myself off, learning from the mistakes and getting stronger, faster, better. Bitcoin is anti-fragile money. Whenever it is attacked, it gets stronger, it gets better, it gets faster. So it is, from my point of view, a match made in heaven.
How do you think the fall down of FTX is affecting Bitcoin from the outside perspective?
I think short term, and we always see this, short term it seems negative from the outside perspective. But long term, it's incredibly positive because it reminds people why we say the things we do. Especially in the Bitcoin space, we've been very consistent. You should try to self-custody. We use things like not your keys, not your coins. And so we act as this anchor, all of this philosophical consistency towards the best practice, and moves people slowly from the approaches that may be quick and easy at the beginning to approaches which are increasingly easier to do and increasingly simple to do, but more secure and more in their interest, more empowering. I wanted people to understand there are different spectrums of custody, and you don't have to, if you cannot feel, you're not ready to self-custody, you don't have to then give all of your capital to a stranger who you don't know, who has a history of not acting in your interests.
Which are the banks?
Well, which are, in the Bitcoin context, can be many of the exchanges out there. There are good exchanges out there, but more often than not, unfortunately, many of them cannot be, you may be uncomfortable trusting them. And we've seen that over the last year. And what we provide is a solution where communities can take control of their own money, their own data, and their own digital lives. I'd say take your time, learn, research. That's the best way. You start by learning. You empower yourself by information.